Aiden's sister was trapped in the hospital when those thugs surrounded her and started talking about selling her on the black market. She begged them to wait for her brother, but they only laughed, because to them, Aiden was just a weak scavenger who had no awakened power, no money, and no way to protect anyone. And when Aiden finally walked in, they mocked him even harder, acting like the family loser had arrived just to get beaten again. Then one of them pulled out a gun, pointed it straight at him, and fired. But Aiden did not dodge. He caught the gun with his bare hand. The entire room froze. His sister stared in shock, the thugs stepped back in terror, and the man holding the gun suddenly realized his weapon was not moving, because the helpless boy they remembered had already disappeared. After being thrown into the water and left to die, Aiden was dragged by a mysterious divine ring into another world, where humans were executed on sight. There, he survived divine punishment, awakened a terrifying power, and lifted the sacred hammer that forced beast warriors to recognize him. So when these thugs touched his sister, Aiden released just a little of that pressure, and their confidence collapsed instantly. But this is only the beginning, because the same bullied scavenger is about to enter a beast world, meet a dangerous beast girl who looks at him like he is either her king or her biggest problem, and discover why the divine ring chose him. To understand how Aiden became this monster, we have to go back to the beginning. The screen erupts with red sparks and blue lightning as our protagonist stands at the center of a literal death sentence. He's on his knees, bound and half naked, while a mob of unseen enemies bellows for his head. He's staring at the ground in a daze, desperately wondering how his life spiraled into this nightmare so quickly. It's a total mess, and honestly, the kid looks like he's already accepted that he's not making it out of this pit alive. A massive, fur-clad beastfolk warrior raises a fist, declaring to the heavens that a filthy human has finally invaded their isolated sanctuary after thousands of years. The kid is shaking, sweat pouring down his face as he tries to piece together his flickering memory of being in a cave just moments ago. He's currently facing divine punishment, which in this world is basically a fancy way of saying he's about to be executed. You have to wonder, is there even a spark of power left in him to fight back? Or is he just waiting for the blow to land? Everything shifts back 5 hours to a cold, quiet night where the only light comes from a roadside food truck. A senior worker in heavy yellow utility gear is chewing out our MC, Tsuyoshi, telling him to quit slacking and finish his dinner before the other teams take all the scrap metal. Tsuyoshi doesn't even have the energy to argue. He just stuffs his face with ramen, looking like a man who's lost every ounce of his ambition. It's a far cry from the lightning-wielding warrior we saw earlier, and it makes you realize just how low he's fallen. The older man sighs, reminding the kid that they're just cleaners, the bottom-tier workers who pick up the trash after the real heroes finish the job. They grab their shovels and stand before the gaping, dark mouth of a C-rank dungeon, a place that's already radiating a heavy, ominous pressure. Even the veteran worker admits that these low-level caves give him the chills every single time he has to step inside. But as the crew finally moves into the shadows, you can't help but feel that something much more dangerous than a simple C-rank monster is lurking in the depths, waiting for them. Heavy boots and rusted shovels wait at the edge of a shimmering golden gate. While the workers stand in the dirt, these high-ranking heroes are decked out in polished gold armor, laughing about how easy it was to snag a reward this time. It's honestly frustrating to watch. They're treating a dangerous dungeon like a walk in the park while the real labor is just starting for everyone else. The gold-armored warrior looks down his nose at the cleaning crew, telling them to stop their grumbling. He makes it personal, reminding our protagonist, Tsuyoshi Tsukishiro, that he's only here because he failed his awakening test. The arrogance is off the charts, and you can tell these heroes think they're a completely different species than the laborers they're mocking. Workers in bulky yellow utility suits slowly disappear into the swirling, luminous energy of the dungeon portal. They're officially known as trash collectors, essentially the janitors of the supernatural world who pick up the leftovers after the heroes are done. Tsuyoshi admits to himself that heroes and cleaners live in two totally different worlds, even though he once dreamed of standing on the other side of that line. Tsuyoshi begins sifting through piles of jagged rock and dark debris inside the dim, blue-tinted ruins. He's digging through the trash when he suddenly spots a faint, metallic glint buried under the rubble. He pulls out a jagged fragment of a broken shield, and for a second, you can see the desperation in his eyes start to turn into something else. A fellow cleaner walks over and remarks that the fragment is actually worth a decent bit of cash. Tsuyoshi takes that as a sign that his luck might finally be changing, so he decides to ignore the easy path and push deeper into the cave. The supervisor shouts that they only have 3.5 hours left before they have to pull out, and the clock starts ticking fast. Tsuyoshi stands alone in the shadows, sweat dripping down his face inside his yellow helmet as the deadline finally hits. He's spent the last few hours digging like a madman, but he's found absolutely nothing else. It's a total disaster. Just as a coworker calls out that it's time to meet up and leave, Tsuyoshi looks at the ground one last time, wondering if he's going to walk away with nothing but a broken piece of scrap. But wait, What is that feeling coming from the dark? Tsuyoshi crouches down, his eyes fixated on a strange stone structure hidden in the cavern's depths. It's an ancient well, and the kid's heart starts racing because he knows exactly what this implies. A dried-up well in a place like this is basically a treasure chest waiting to be cracked open. He leans over the jagged rim, squinting into the abyss until he sees it, a faint, rhythmic shimmer. Down there, amidst the dust of centuries, a skeletal hand is still clutching onto a secret. Talk about a creepy way to find a payday, right? Without a second thought, Tsuyoshi secures his rope and begins a dangerous descent into the narrow, dark shaft. The air gets colder the deeper he goes, but his adrenaline is doing all the heavy lifting right now. He finally touches the bottom and pries a massive, ornate golden ring from the cold fingers of the dead. It's beautiful, etched with symbols that seem to pulse with a life of their own. Tsuyoshi lets out a hysterical laugh, screaming that he's finally hit the jackpot and made a fortune. Honestly, I'd be losing my mind too if I found something that looked that expensive. Just as he's planning his early retirement, the ring explodes with a violent, searing orange light. Tsuyoshi flinches as the energy doesn't just blind him, it dives into his skin, vibrating through his very cells in a weirdly high-tech scan. Suddenly, a sleek holographic window snaps into existence right before his eyes. The boundless ring has officially recognized him as its one and only master, and the crazy part is that it can never be removed or traded. He went looking for a paycheck, but he just accidentally bonded with a divine system. The floor of the well suddenly turns into a churning whirlpool of light and shadow. The system announces that a boundless passage is opening, and before he can even grab his rope, Tsuyoshi is being sucked into the floor. He lets out a blood-curdling scream for help that rings through the entire cave system. Back at the surface, his crew looks around in total confusion, wondering why their friend is suddenly howling in terror from the depths. But by the time they reach the edge, he's already gone. What kind of hell did he just fall into? The laborer crew stands around the pit, sighing about how the kid worked so hard despite never becoming a hero. They think he's just a tragic case of someone giving it his all, but having zero talent. But inside that hole, Tsuyoshi is plummeting through a surreal, golden vortex that looks more like a divine portal than a cave-in. When he finally regains consciousness, the dusty mines are gone, replaced by a sight that defies logic. Honestly, imagine waking up and realizing your failed hero status is about to be the least of your problems. A colossal stone hammer stands atop a massive pyramid altar, wrapped in arcs of lethal blue lightning. Tsuyoshi stares in total horror, piecing together that he's been teleported straight into the heart of the beast folk's forbidden sacred land. At the top of the stairs, the Beast King sits on a spiked throne, looking like a nightmare of muscle and shadow as he coldly commands the ritual to begin. The tension in the air is thick enough to choke on. This isn't just a meeting, it's a public execution. A massive beast warrior with a giant blade calls out the first criminal, a traitor who dared to sell confidential info to despised humans. The crowd of beastmen goes absolutely feral, chanting for divine punishment with a bloodlust that literally shakes the stone floor. They kick the bound traitor into the dirt, showing zero compassion or mercy for one of their own kind. It's a chilling reminder of just how much these guys absolutely loathe our species. The hammer of the Divine King begins to glow with blinding intensity, gathering enough electrical energy to vaporize anything in its path. This is the domain of divine punishment, a place where no one has ever survived the god-tier lightning strike. But then, the focus shifts, and the air gets even colder as the Beast King points toward a cage. The next person slated for this agonizing death isn't another traitor. It's the lowly human, who just intruded on their land. Tsuyoshi is trapped, staring up at a weapon designed to crush sins, and he's first in line. How the hell is a regular laborer supposed to survive a strike from a god? A massive warrior looms over the arena with a terrifying declaration of war. He demands divine punishment for the human who dared to break their ancient covenant. Honestly, these guys are taking a wrong turn in the woods way too seriously. The kid is absolutely terrified, pleading that he just lost his way and that his sister is waiting for him. It's brutal watching someone beg for their life while a literal king looks down on them like trash. Tsuyoshi's face contorts in pain as he realizes his dream of becoming a hero might end right here. He's thinking about Karina and everything he'll lose if he gives up now. But the beastmen aren't interested in his tragic backstory, they just see an insect that needs to be stepped on. They start chanting for his death, and you can feel the bloodlust radiating off the screen. The kid collapses to the floor as a blinding blue light begins to gather in the air above him. The order is given to bring down judgment, and a massive pillar of lightning obliterates the ground where he was just lying. My heart actually skipped a beat for a second. There's no way he survived that, right? But as the dust settles, the crater is empty, and the kid is gone. A sea of red eyes stares down in absolute disbelief at the scorched earth. They're all asking the same thing. Did a lowly human really just dodge a literal bolt from the heavens? Even the massive beastman general looks shaken, calling this level of reaction speed unprecedented. Usually, when a god tries to strike you down, you don't just move out of the way. Tsuyoshi stands tall among the debris, his body trembling but his voice filled with pure defiance. He screams that he refuses to die at the hands of these bastards, but the system isn't done testing him yet. Suddenly, a second, even more violent surge of electricity swallows him whole, turning his entire world into a blur of purple and white. It's a total sensory overload. He's being cooked alive by pure divine energy. The crowd erupts into a frenzied chant, celebrating the sight of the sinner finally being erased. They're convinced this is the end of the line and the human problem is solved. But deep inside that roar of lightning, Tsuyoshi's silhouette is still standing, his mind stuck on the one thing keeping him conscious. He cannot die here. But seriously, how much longer can a human body act as a lightning rod before it simply disintegrates? A glowing blue holographic window flashes over the chaos, drowning out the roar of the storm. The Boundless Ring has officially triggered the divine selection system, immediately starting an emergency body repair to construct what it calls the ultimate physique. Honestly, this is the ultimate "I'm not done yet" moment. Can you imagine the sheer shock the beast folk are feeling right now? 1 second they're celebrating a death, and the next, the laws of biology are being rewritten right in front of them. The lightning arcs violently around a silhouette that refuses to fall, even as the earth shatters beneath him. The beast men stop their cheering, their jaws dropping as they realize that filthy human isn't just surviving the strike, he's standing tall. What the heck? They scream, watching their surefire execution turn into a divine light show. Their smug arrogance is evaporating in real time, replaced by the kind of terror you only feel when you realize you've just poked a sleeping god. Tsuyoshi's old, battered skin begins to peel away, revealing a body glowing with a divine blue aura that puts the lightning to shame. The system isn't done with the upgrades yet, as it forcefully inputs a new skill, Divine Eye. As the data floods his brain, Tsuyoshi whispers that something is calling to him from the top of the altar. It's a pull he can't ignore, a destiny that's been waiting for someone strong enough to claim it. Is he even the same person anymore, or has he become something the world isn't ready for? The kid begins to walk, his footsteps heavy and rhythmic as he ascends the stone stairs toward the center of the beastfolk's power. His new, muscular build is shredded and pulsing with energy, a complete transformation from the slender labor he was just minutes ago. Every step he takes is a middle finger to the hierarchy that tried to crush him. The sheer pressure coming off him is so intense that the air itself seems to be vibrating with his every move. The Beastman leader breaks into a cold sweat, his eyes bulging as he watches Tsuyoshi reach out for the forbidden relic. No one has ever been able to even get close to the hammer of the Divine King, yet this human is walking up to it like he's just picking up a tool for work. As his hand nears the handle, the tension in the air reaches a breaking point. If this human actually lifts the hammer of their prophecy, it won't just be a humiliation, it'll be the end of the Beastman reign as they know it. But wait, can a human actually wield the power of a divine king? The kid's silhouette is swallowed by a blinding blue aura as the system finalizes the ultimate physique construction. He looks down at his own hands, his eyes glowing with a terrifying white light, asking the voice in his head why it even called him here. It's like his entire biology is being rewritten on the molecular level, turning a scrawny labor into a literal engine of destruction. Seriously, the sheer pressure coming off him right now is enough to make the ground crack. The cheat system title card flashes across the screen as his new power stabilizes, signaling the end of his life as a regular human. This is the exact moment the hierarchy of this world gets flipped upside down. You can just feel the momentum shifting into overdrive. Honestly, if I were those beast folk, I'd be looking for the nearest exit before things get ugly. Massive bolts of blue electricity arc through the air, forcing the hulking Beastman warriors to shield their eyes in pure terror. Amidst the chaos, the kid reaches out and slams his hand onto the handle of the massive, glowing divine hammer. He doesn't hesitate for a second, gripping the weapon that no human was ever supposed to touch. The sheer disrespect of a filthy human grabbing their most sacred relic has the Beastmen frozen in a mix of rage and disbelief. Can he actually move it, though? With a single, effortless motion, the kid hoists the golden hammer onto his shoulder like it weighs absolutely nothing. A golden system prompt chimes in his ears, officially confirming he has acquired the divine hammer, and jumps straight to level 21. He's just standing there, looking totally unbothered while holding the literal weight of a prophecy. It's the ultimate flex, without him even realizing how much he just broke their world. A Beastman girl stares with wide, trembling eyes, whispering that a human actually lifted the hammer. Behind her, a massive, tusked leader is absolutely losing his mind, screaming that they can't allow a mere human to touch their sacred artifact. His pride is completely shattered, and his face is twisted in a mask of pure fury. But here's the real question. How do you plan on taking it back from a guy who's currently holding your god's favorite weapon? Text bubbles float over the chaotic scene as the Beastmen realize their entire world just flipped upside down. Their own ancient prophecy says whoever lifts that hammer is their rightful leader, and they're absolutely losing it because there's no way a filthy human can be their boss. Meanwhile, Blue sparks of lightning dance across the kid's back as his muscles ripple with newfound power. He realizes this is the divine selection system finally kicking into high gear, making him feel stronger by the second. Honestly, talk about a glow-up at the worst possible time. A massive shockwave ripples through the air as the kid stands his ground in a crater of red energy. He's just a small figure holding that legendary weapon, but the pressure he's putting off is making the ground literally shatter. Suddenly, an absolute mountain of a beastman general steps out of the crowd, looming over the kid like a literal storm cloud. The other warriors are screaming to reclaim their pride, but the general just stares him down with glowing, murderous eyes, demanding he return the hammer, quietly. Yeah, I don't think anyone is going home quietly after this. A new blue system screen pings into existence right in front of the kid's face. It's a passive skill called Divine Eye, and it's basically a cheat code that lets him see the detailed stats of anyone he looks at. He focuses on the giant in front of him, and a character sheet pops up: name, Ryuga, title, General, level 84. The kid's expression turns deadly serious as he realizes the sheer gap between them. It's one thing to have a cool system, but it's another thing entirely to realize you're staring at a level 84 raid boss while you're still basically a newbie. Ryuga looks at the kid's focused gaze and actually seems to respect it, thinking the human has some serious backbone for not running away. He shouts, "Fine," and prepares to end this with one crushing blow. The crazy part is, the kid is actually terrified inside, screaming that there's no way he can take on a warrior of this rank. But before he can even process the fear, Ryuga swings a massive strike that looks like it's going to level the entire area. Can he actually block a general's full power attack with a hammer he just picked up? This is about to get messy. The kid is literally begging for his life as the strike comes down, looking completely out of his league. Everyone watching is 100% sure he's a dead man, with the onlookers whispering that a human should have been sliced in half by now. Honestly, you can't even blame them for the doubt. This power gap is just straight up depressing. A massive explosion of blue energy rips through the air the moment Ryuga's blade slams into the divine hammer. The kid's feet plow through the solid earth like he's being shoved by a freight train, carving deep, jagged furrows into the ground. He's staring at the hammer in total shock, his hands vibrating so violently they've gone completely numb. It's the only thing that kept him alive, but his body is already reaching its limit. Ryuga's eyes are glowing with pure, animalistic hatred as he snarls that luck won't save the human a second time. Even now, the kid is still trying to be the voice of reason, desperately screaming that this is all a huge misunderstanding and he's not even from this world. Look, I get he wants to avoid a war, but trying to negotiate while your opponent is literally foaming at the mouth is just wishful thinking. The general shuts him down instantly, shouting that there's absolutely nothing left to hear before seizing him. With a terrifying roar, he launches the kid straight into the red-tinted clouds like a ragdoll, calling out his ultimate finishing move, Earthquake Shaker. This is bad. He's being set up for a mid-air execution with nowhere to run and gravity working against him. We see the kid tumbling through the sky, but as the wind whips past him, his expression suddenly shifts from panic to cold focus. A system prompt flashes in his vision, asking if he wants to replicate skills. A wild, desperate realization hits him: if he can't beat the general with his own strength, he'll just have to steal the beastman's legendary power and throw it right back at him. But the real question is, can a human body even survive the strain of an elite beastman's technique? This is about to get insane. A close-up shows the kid's hand making contact right on the beastman's chest. The system literally told him to touch him there, and the result is, well, it's definitely not what anyone expected. The massive warrior actually blushes, surrounded by floating roses like he's suddenly the lead in a weird romance novel. Honestly, the system's tactics are getting more questionable by the second, but you can't argue with the results. The kid falls through a pink-tinted sky filled with sparkling flower petals while clutching his hammer. He's completely overwhelmed, looking at the sheer number of skills the system is throwing at him, realizing he can't even pick just one. The Beastman General is losing his mind, screaming about what exactly is being done to him as his warrior pride shatters. I'd be confused too if a human just turned my serious battlefield into a shoujo manga dreamscape. The general roars in a panic, launching his ultimate move called Heaven and Earth. But right then, a blue system screen flashes. The legendary Heaven Shaker skill has been 100% replicated. The kid doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat, swinging his weapon with everything he's got because he knows this is his only shot at staying alive. This is it. The moment of truth where a laborer uses a king's power. The general's eyes go wide with pure terror as he realizes his own signature technique is being used against him. A colossal explosion of white light and blue energy erupts, tearing up the ground and shaking the entire area. It looks like a direct, devastating hit. But as the smoke starts to clear, something feels off. A beast girl watches in total horror as her leader is blasted back, but the general's reaction is the real kicker. He isn't screaming in pain, he's actually panting and saying the power doesn't hurt, and that it actually feels pleasant. Imagine being a terrifying war leader and getting attacked with a move that feels like a spa treatment. This isn't just a loss, it's a total, public execution of his dignity. The kid stands there panting, only to see a system notification confirming he dealt 0 actual damage because of his low level. He's just as confused as we are, but the general is reaching for his hammer with a face full of pure, unadulterated rage. He's been humiliated in front of his entire race, and now, he's coming for blood. The kid might have won the mental game, but he's in more danger now than ever before. A massive explosion of fire and pressure rocks the arena as a voice bellows, "That's enough." The Beast King, Ryuga, finally intervenes, cutting through the chaos like a blade to stop the madness. The crowd of beastfolk erupts into a total frenzy, shouting that their leader is finally taking action. You can almost feel the ground shaking under the weight of his authority. It's the kind of entrance that completely shifts the energy of a room, from a slaughter to a standoff. Tsuyoshi stands amidst the swirling wind and dust, his face a mask of pure, gritty determination as he refuses to back down. As the haze begins to settle, the king's massive frame looms over the scene like a mountain. The silence that follows is heavy, honestly, it's completely suffocating for everyone watching. Everyone is just holding their breath to see if Ryuga is going to finish what the executioner started. Tsuyoshi looks like he's ready for whatever comes next, even though he's clearly running on fumes. The king stares at the human and admits the unthinkable. Tsuyoshi has truly been chosen by the divine hammer. He calls it a direct sign from the gods, a miracle they haven't seen in centuries. Tsuyoshi is just standing there, battered and bleeding, looking like he's barely processing the fact that he's still alive. It's wild to see the shift from being a death row prisoner to being a prophesied legend in a matter of seconds. You can see the exhaustion in his eyes, but also that flicker of, "I told you so." Ryuga turns to his fellow beastmen, his voice booming as he explains that no one, not even their strongest warriors, could lift that hammer for thousands of years. Yet, this human did it without hesitation. He tells the tribe that if this man is destined to be their future leader, they have to give him the time and space to grow. He's basically putting his entire reputation on the line for a stranger. It's a massive gamble on a prophecy that most people thought was just a myth. The lower-ranked warriors aren't sold yet, whispering and sweating as they point out that he's clearly not one of them. They're terrified that a human leader will destroy their traditions or lead them into ruin. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. But then, Ryuga drops the most stone-cold line, asking them, "And what about it?" with a look that would freeze a volcano. He's not looking for a debate, he's setting the new law of the land, and no one is brave enough to argue. Text bubbles float over Ryuga's imposing figure as he weighs the weight of their laws against the reality in front of him. Even though the elders are terrified of a human leader, Ryuga knows they can't just ignore the guy holding the literal hammer of hope. He looks Tsuyoshi dead in the eye and asks for his name, and our boy doesn't blink, answering him straight. Ryuga's response is heavy. He's willing to set Tsuyoshi free, but only if he agrees to carry the entire future of the beast folk on his back. Honestly, that's a massive burden to dump on someone who just got here. Ryuga's massive hand reaches out, pressing a finger against Tsuyoshi's forehead like he's sealing a literal blood contract. He gives him a deadline, exactly 1 year to get stronger and return to prove he's actually worthy of leading them. Tsuyoshi looks a bit dazed, trying to process the fact that his life just pivoted from execution victim to prophesized king. He stands there, gripping the divine hammer in the middle of a shattered crater, looking like a total boss despite the impossible task ahead. It's a complete, point-of-no-return moment, and you can feel the shift in the air. Tsuyoshi's gaze shifts toward the small beast-man girl who's been watching from the shadows. He suddenly remembers she was next on the chopping block, and there's no way he's leaving her behind to face that. He catches a glimpse of her stats and, wait, she's a level 72 warrior, which makes his current power level look like a joke. She shouts at him to value his life and not waste this miracle the gods gave him. It really makes you wonder, what kind of crime did a girl like her commit to end up on death row? A small, confident smirk finally breaks across Tsuyoshi's face as he looks up at the towering general. He agrees that this really is a miracle, and he's ready to take the deal, but he's got one major condition. He raises his hand, pointing straight at the beastman girl, and declares that she's coming with him because she might be useful. Her face is pure, unadulterated shock, and honestly, I'd be floored too. Tsuyoshi isn't just escaping, he's officially recruiting his first party member. But how is a human going to survive back home with a beast warrior in tow? Tsuyoshi stands tall under a crimson sky, his shredded physique glowing with the fading heat of battle. He looks directly at the beastman general, declaring that their debts are finally settled and they are now even. It's a powerful moment of closure. He's no longer a prisoner or a sacrifice, but a man who earned his exit. Honestly, seeing him stand his ground like this after everything is just pure hype. A massive, glowing moon hangs over the silent beast realm as Tsuyoshi gazes at his hand. He realizes everything changed the moment he heard that mysterious voice and equipped the boundless ring. It gave him the power to survive, but the weight of the mystery is heavy. He's wondering how he's ever supposed to get back to his own world. You can tell the isolation is starting to set in. The Beastman girl looks up with shimmering eyes, her animal ears twitching as she pledges her life to him. She calls him master and promises to serve her savior forever. Tsuyoshi's cool exterior absolutely shatters, his face contorting into this hilarious, over-the-top grin of pure joy. I mean, can you blame him? Getting called master by a cute beast-eared girl is basically every protagonist's dream. Tsuyoshi tries to play it cool while blushing like a madman, scratching his cheek in embarrassment. The girl reaches out, her gloved hand gently touching his as fireflies dance in the tall grass around them. She tells him that no one has ever stood by her or thanked her so straightforwardly before. It's a surprisingly tender moment in such a gritty world. You can really feel the emotional walls coming down. Tsuyoshi gives in with a goofy, nose-bleeding smile and tells her she can call him whatever she wants. They begin to walk into the deepening night, the girl leading the way and warning him to watch his step. Tsuyoshi lets out a long, shaky breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He's survived the monsters, but surviving a cute companion might be his hardest mission yet. But as the portal home looms, will he actually be able to take her with him? Tsuyoshi and the Beastman girl stand beneath a moon so massive it looks like it's about to swallow the horizon. He stares up at the sky, genuinely moved by how incredible this other world actually is. But the moment of peace doesn't last long. He quickly snaps himself out of it, reminding himself that his sister Karina is still waiting for him back home. Right as his resolve hardens, a system notification pings in front of his eyes. The boundless passage is finally available for use. This is it, his window to reality is opening. He checks his hands, wondering if following the same path back will actually work. He barely has time to process the risk before a pillar of golden light erupts around him, lifting him off his feet. He looks like he's being raptured as he shouts that he's finally going home. The poor Beastman girl just stands there, staring at the empty space where he used to be, whispering, "Master," under her breath. Honestly, seeing her left behind like that is kind of a heartbreaker. Tsuyoshi is sent spiraling through a tunnel of blinding white energy that looks like it's trying to tear him apart. With a heavy thud, he slams onto a cold, damp stone floor at the bottom of a dark pit. He looks up, gasping for breath, and realizes the air feels different. He's back in his yellow cleaning jumpsuit and helmet. He claps his hands together in pure joy, realizing he actually survived the journey. It's a miracle he didn't end up as a smear on the interdimensional highway. He immediately pulls up his status window to see what he has left after the trip. The screen shows he's back to a pathetic level 3 with no occupation or skills, but his eyes widen when he sees the inventory slot. The divine hammer is still there, tucked away in his divine consciousness storage. He's completely floored that a god-tier weapon actually made the trip with him. But the realization is bittersweet. Having a legendary hammer doesn't change the fact that his physical body is back to being weak. A voice suddenly booms from the top of the pit, and Tsuyoshi looks up to see a man peering down at him. The guy sounds frustrated, asking Tsuyoshi why he's still just standing there after he's been gone for hours. Tsuyoshi's heart sinks as he mentions being in the other world for 5 hours, but the guy's response is even weirder. He claims Tsuyoshi has been right there the whole time. If time didn't move at all while he was fighting for his life, what kind of messed up reality has he stepped back into? A gloved hand grips a metal pole as a voice warns that once the cave closes, you're trapped forever. Tsuyoshi stands there, completely stunned, trying to process the fact that while he was fighting for his life for 5 hours, not a single second passed in the human world. It's like something straight out of a manga, and it honestly feels a bit cheap after all that blood he spilled. He looks down at a skeletal hand reaching out from the dirt and wonders about the boundless ring he found. If time is frozen here while he's in the other realm, does that mean the beast world is frozen right now too? The mystery of the ring's original owner hangs over him like a death sentence, especially seeing what's left of those who came before. Tsuyoshi crouches down in his yellow cleaner suit, looking exhausted but determined. He checks with the old man to confirm that the next awakening test is still happening tomorrow. This is his only real shot at getting the money he needs for Karina's treatment, even if his body currently feels like a weak level 9 shell again. He's back to being an underdog in a world that doesn't care if he lives or dies. The transition is jarring, moving from a divine king back to a guy who cleans up monster messes for pennies. But he isn't the same person who went into that portal, and tomorrow's test is about to prove it. The scene shifts to a rain-drenched street where Tsuyoshi is covered in blood, gasping for breath. An overturned red car and piles of rubble paint a picture of absolute carnage as the downpour washes over the wreckage. This is the gritty, unfiltered reality of the world he's trying to survive in. No fancy power-ups, just cold rain and the smell of iron. You can see the trauma in his eyes as he huddles on the ground, a reminder that awakening isn't a gift for everyone, for some, it's a nightmare. It makes you wonder what kind of disaster he just lived through to look that broken. A stern man with long silver hair and gleaming gold armor bellows at a group of trainees. He's the type of guy who looks like he'd kill you for blinking wrong, telling everyone they don't have time to waste if they want to be heroes. Down in the mud, the trainees shout back in unison, terrified of falling behind or being kicked out. The instructor warns them that the training will be strict and anyone who can't keep up needs to leave immediately. Tsuyoshi stands among them, soaking wet and silent, watching this golden-clad tyrant. The pressure is suffocating, and you have to ask yourself, is Tsuyoshi really ready to face this kind of hell after what he just went through? Rain pours down over a cityscape that looks like it's been hit by the absolute apocalypse. A younger, smaller Tsuyoshi stands among the falling debris, his face a mess of blood and cold rain. He's looking up at a crumbling apartment building, his voice trembling as he asks if his mom and dad made it out. You can see the heavy rubble shifting in the background, and man, the silence between those distant explosions is just haunting. It's the kind of moment where you realize his entire life is about to change forever. The camera zooms in on his face, and his eyes are wide with a kind of raw terror that no child should ever have to experience. He completely loses it, screaming for his parents at the top of his lungs as the reality of the tragedy finally hits him like a freight train. He's desperately trying to scramble back toward the wall of fire and smoke, shouting for Mom and Dad into the void. It's honestly gut-wrenching to watch him fight against the inevitable while the world collapses around him. You have to wonder, how does a kid even come back from seeing this? Suddenly, a man's rough hand yanks him back, dragging him away just as a building starts to cave in right where he was standing. The guy is shouting at him, telling him that if he stops moving for even a second, he's going to die right here in the street. Tsuyoshi is sobbing, fighting the man's grip and screaming that his parents are still trapped inside that burning house. But then, the man drops the ultimate reality check. If Tsuyoshi dies here, Karina dies with him. That's the moment the switch flipped, the moment he realized he had to survive, no matter what he had to leave behind. We snap back to the present, and the scene shifts to the quiet, sterile air of a hospital room. Karina is sitting in her wheelchair, looking up at her brother with those big, soulful eyes that are filled with nothing but worry. She's asking him if he's really serious about retaking that awakening test tomorrow, knowing he's already pushed himself to the breaking point at work. Tsuyoshi just looks at her, ignoring his own exhaustion to ask if her legs are still hurting. He's currently stuck at a measly level 9 with almost no power left, but looking at her, you know he'll do whatever it takes to fix her, even if it kills him. Karina flinches as a cold needle pierces her skin. The medical staff warns her that the nerve damage will cause regular, agonizing pain, but she just bites her lip and whispers that she's okay. Tsuyoshi watches from the side, his heart sinking as he realizes just how much she's hiding from him. He activates his divine eye, and the world shifts into a clinical, terrifying overlay. The status window confirms his worst fears. 98% of the nerves in her legs are completely necrotized, glowing like dying embers on the screen. Seeing the literal percentage of her suffering, it's enough to make any brother lose his mind. Tsuyoshi looks at Karina staring wistfully out a window from her wheelchair. He thinks about the life she should have had, school, trips with friends, and just the simple dignity of walking. It's a crushing weight, knowing she's his only family and he's currently too weak to fix her. He walks through the neon-lit city streets alone, feeling like a shadow among the crowd. Even if the odds are practically zero, he makes a silent, ironclad vow that he will make her stand on her own 2 feet again. You can see it in his eyes. He's done being a victim of circumstance. His sneakers come to a sharp halt on the pavement as his resolve hardens. This isn't just about the money for Karina's treatment anymore. He wants to live a life he can actually be proud of. He lets out a silent roar of determination, swearing to become the strongest hero in existence, no matter the cost. The scene shifts to the massive BTG Awakening test site, glowing under a full moon. The results for the previous candidate chime in, level 3, combat power 540. It's a reminder of just how high the mountain is that he has to climb. A staff member hands a customized hero's emblem to a guy who looks way too smug for a level 3. This random dude with sunglasses starts bragging about having a huge feast to celebrate, completely oblivious to the real struggle happening right behind him. Then, the announcement finally echoes through the hall. Next up, Tsuyoshi. The receptionist behind the desk doesn't even look up from his papers, his voice dripping with boredom. He tells Tsuyoshi to step into the device, but adds a parting sting. He's sure the result won't be any different from the last failure. Honestly, I hope Tsuyoshi breaks that machine just to shut him up. Tsuyoshi steps into the testing chamber with a cold, steady focus. The official doesn't even look up from his screen, muttering about how he's seen plenty of stubborn losers try and fail in this exact spot. He mentions that the last guy was a level 3 with a pathetic combat power of only 3 points, calling that result normal. Honestly, this guy's attitude is trash, but he has no idea he's about to witness a miracle. The monitor flickers to life, confirming Tsuyoshi is officially a level 3 hero. He stares at the screen, questioning just how high his actual combat power can climb if he finally stops holding back. Without a second thought, he triggers his ultimate physique activation. Red energy explodes from his body in a violent shockwave that practically screams for mercy as the machine struggles to contain him. Here we go, it's finally happening. The entire room begins to heave as the official loses his balance, screaming out in terror about an earthquake. The machine's display glitches violently, the numbers climbing so fast they're just a red blur before slamming into a staggering 5,400. A notification pops up. The 30-year-old record for level 3 heroes hasn't just been broken, it's been completely vaporized. I'm getting literal chills. He's a monster in a tank top. Tsuyoshi looks down at his own hands, genuinely stunned that his body has become this sturdy through his trials. He didn't expect the power jump to be this massive, but a wild, confident grin starts to spread across his face. He realizes that if everything is going according to plan, he can finally stop hiding and start aiming for the strongest enemies in this world. Seeing him this hyped, it's honestly contagious. Jagged blue lightning crackles across his palm as he prepares to push his limits even further. However, a system warning flashes in his vision, forcing this release drains an insane amount of energy, giving him a strict limit of only 1 single second. Tsuyoshi doesn't flinch, knowing that 1 second is all he needs for the machine to calculate his true worth. But man, what happens if he runs out of time when his life is actually on the line? Tsuyoshi stands before the sensor, clutching the Divine King's hammer with a determined grip. He decides it's finally time to pull the trigger and activates the artifact's full, hidden power. Man, I really hope he knows what he's doing here. Instantly, a system alert confirms the release, but there's a massive catch. It only lasts for 1 single second. Tsuyoshi's face immediately contorts in pain as every drop of his energy is sucked dry like a vacuum. It's terrifying to think that a weapon can demand that much life force just to wake up. Blinding white and purple light erupts from his body, completely swallowing the room. He's gritting his teeth, screaming at the machine to hurry up and record the data before he literally collapses. Look at his eyes, they're glowing with a primal, desperate red aura. A massive vortex of energy swirls at his feet, looking like it's about to tear the floor out from under him. Honestly, this doesn't even look like a test anymore. It looks like a total meltdown. Jagged purple lightning bolts tear through the night sky, striking down right into the heart of the city. Down on the streets, people are losing their minds, screaming about earthquakes and the end of the world. The vibrations are so violent that the skyscrapers themselves look like they're swaying in the wind. You can feel the sheer scale of the disaster he just triggered. Just 1 second of his power is enough to put an entire metropolis on high alert. Inside the facility, a terrified staff member scrambles to evacuate as the monitors go pitch black. An automated warning blares through the halls, announcing that the test has been suspended due to a total blackout. Amidst the smoke and flickering lights, Tsuyoshi emerges looking completely drained, thin, haggard, and reverted to his weak, human form. The worker stares at him in total confusion, not even recognizing the monster who just broke the grid. It's a complete 180 from the godlike figure we just saw. Tsuyoshi stumbles down the dark, empty hallway, leaning against the wall for support. He mutters to himself about how he underestimated the drain, shocked that his entire strength vanished in a heartbeat. But then, a sharp, confident smirk creeps across his face. Even though he's physically wrecked, that look tells me he achieved exactly what he set out to do. He's playing a high-stakes game, and he just won the first round. The scene shifts to the training grounds, where a pair of heavy, armored boots come into view. A man with flowing silver hair and gleaming golden armor introduces himself as Gaia, the hero in charge of the upcoming training. His stats flash on the screen. Level 9 warrior with a combat power of 1,200. Now that Gaia is on the scene, how the heck is Tsuyoshi going to hide his true power while being trained by someone like this? The real struggle is just beginning. Tsuyoshi stares down at the polished golden boots of the hero standing before him. He scans Gaia's stats and can't believe his eyes. The guy only has a combat power of 1,200 despite being level 9. After witnessing the raw, terrifying strength of the beast folk, Tsuyoshi realizes this top-tier trainer is actually a total lightweight. Seriously, how is he supposed to learn anything from someone he could probably outpace in his sleep? Gaia points a finger and drops a massive bombshell. They're heading into a D-rank dungeon tomorrow. The rookies immediately freak out, shouting that they haven't even finished a single week of basic physical training. While the crowd is panicking about survival, one guy is completely distracted, getting a literal nosebleed just from looking at a blushing female trainee. It's total chaos, but for Tsuyoshi, this is just a noisy distraction from his real goal. The sun sets over Tsuyoshi's cramped apartment as he stares at the glowing ring on his finger. He's been waiting for the cooldown on his boundless passage skill to finally end so he can return to the otherworld. He knows that his only hope of saving Karina and getting the equipment he needs is hidden back in that dangerous realm. The ring begins to hum with an intense, golden light, signaling that his time in the human world is officially up. Blue energy fractures the air as Tsuyoshi is yanked back through the portal. He opens his eyes to the familiar, jagged cliffs and the massive moon of the beast realm, but he immediately notices something is very wrong. His shredded ultimate physique has vanished, and he's back in his baggy, yellow cleaner jumpsuit, looking as weak as the day he first arrived. He realizes the cruelest part of the system: every time he crosses over, his body and equipment revert to their original state. He's back in a land of monsters with zero power, and the hunt is about to begin. Tsuyoshi catches a glimpse of the Beastman girl's revealing armor and immediately starts sweating. He tries to play it off like a total pro, claiming it's nothing, but his blushing face tells a completely different story. It's honestly hilarious seeing him try to act tough in that baggy yellow cleaner jumpsuit while his heart is clearly racing. He quickly pumps his fist, demanding they start leveling up so he can hide his embarrassment behind some action. I mean, can you blame the guy? He's trapped in another world with a literal battle goddess. The Beastman girl points her sword toward a dark thicket, mentioning a level 3 goblin nest nearby. She gives him a serious look, warning that even though they're low level, these goblins are lecherous and cunning creeps who move in massive packs. Tsuyoshi doesn't look intimidated at all. In fact, he gets those classic anime stars in his eyes. To him, fighting goblins means he's finally living the true fantasy hunter life. He's vibrating with excitement to see how his divine selection system handles a real mob of monsters. A massive, glowing full moon hangs over the jagged mountains, casting a cold light over the entire beast realm. Tsuyoshi takes a moment to peek at his companion's status window and his jaw nearly hits the dirt. She's level 72 with a combat power of 630,000. Just let that sink in for a second. She's basically a walking natural disaster compared to him. It's a reality check that hits like a freight train. How is he supposed to lead someone who could probably level a city with a sneeze? Tsuyoshi tries to reclaim some dignity, leaning back and acting like he's the one in charge because he's the master. He asks her to show him exactly how a high-level hero handles a fight, probably hoping to pick up some tips without getting his hands dirty. But then she mentions some annoying rule about how they need to coordinate, leaving him totally deflated. Seeing them both sitting on the ground looking disappointed is such a mood shift. You have to wonder, is he actually going to help, or is he just going to be a cheerleader? The Beastman girl suddenly stands up, her muscles tensing as she prepares to launch an all-out assault. "Here I go," she shouts, and before Tsuyoshi can even blink, she's vanished into a blur of speed. A blinding white streak of energy tears through the dark woods like a lightning bolt hitting the earth. We see the goblins for a split second, ugly, drooling monsters with their tongues hanging out, before they even realize they're dead. This isn't a fight, it's a complete slaughter. And honestly, this is only the warm-up. But as the dust settles, a much darker presence begins to stir in the shadows of the cave. Is she strong enough to handle what's coming next? A massive crimson spray erupts across the screen as the Beastman girl carves through a monster with a single, brutal slash. She's moving with a level of grace and speed that's honestly terrifying to watch. Tsuyoshi is just standing there, literally clapping for her like a proud coach while she looks back at him with those big, sparkling blue eyes. He's so hyped that he actually asks her to teach him that exact technique. I love this dynamic, but let's be real, Tsuyoshi is trying to run before he can even crawl. The girl gives him a blank, deadpan stare that says, "Are you serious?" more than words ever could. Tsuyoshi just laughs it off, crossing his arms and declaring that since he has her, he's officially going to become a warrior too. Right on cue, the system pings, and a blue notification confirms he's switched his occupation to warrior. The catch? He realizes he can't use the Divine King's hammer and desperately needs a replacement weapon. It's a bold move, but switching classes in the middle of a dungeon is a massive gamble. Will his stats even hold up? The Beastman girl's face turns bright red, her ears twitching as she promises to do everything in her power to help him level up first. It's such a wholesome, ride-or-die moment that even Tsuyoshi starts blushing, thinking about how surprisingly kind this brutal world is. They're standing so close you can practically feel the tension, and for a second, the dungeon feels like the last thing on their minds. But the honeymoon phase is cut short because, in this place, silence never lasts. A grotesque green goblin shrieks, "Intruder," as it lunges out of the darkness, its combat power clocking in at 420. The duo immediately snaps back into a combat stance, the air in the cave turning cold and heavy. Tsuyoshi looks down, his eyes shadowed as he tells her there's something specific he wants to try out. You can tell he's done being the guy who just watches from the sidelines. He's looking for a fight, and he's looking for it right now. The girl reaches out in a panic, warning him that engaging an enemy of the same level head-on is way too dangerous for him. Tsuyoshi doesn't flinch, he just unsheathes a sharp, silver dagger, his gaze sharpening into a look of pure, lethal focus. He hasn't fully tested his new power yet, and he's about to use these goblins as his personal laboratory. This is the moment of truth. Is he about to pull off a miracle, or did he just sign his own death warrant by ignoring her warning? One wrong move with that dagger, and it's game over. A massive shockwave ripples through the air as the words, Heaven Shaker, flash across the screen. Tsuyoshi finally lets loose, slamming his borrowed dagger down with enough force to shatter the ground itself. His combat power spikes to 420 in a literal heartbeat, turning the battlefield into a smoking crater. Honestly, I didn't think he had that kind of raw destructive power in him yet. The Beastman girl stares at the destruction, her jaw practically hitting the floor. She mentions that even a full party of 6 elite hunters would struggle here, but Tsuyoshi just watches his EXP bar tick up like it's nothing. A blue system window confirms he's hit level 3, though it still lists his occupation as a basic warrior. It's a massive jump, but seeing that borrowed tag on his only weapon makes me wonder, what happens when that dagger inevitably breaks? The scene shifts as Tsuyoshi reaches down to pick up a new item from a fallen monster. You'd expect a rare drop after a kill like that, but instead, he pulls out a worn-out wooden stick. He looks at it with this weirdly optimistic expression, even though the system UI clearly shows it's trash-tier gear. Seriously, man, going from a silver dagger to a literal branch is the ultimate downgrade. The Beastman girl doesn't let him celebrate his new stick for long, urging him to find real equipment before his luck runs out. She's worried because his current jumpsuit offers 0 defense, and as if on cue, the ground begins to tremble again. Suddenly, a dark goblin boss erupts from the shadows, its mouth agape and a massive, fleshy tongue arm lunging straight for them. This isn't a regular mob anymore, this is a boss that looks like it crawled out of a nightmare. The girl screams for Tsuyoshi to get his weapon ready as she lunges forward to intercept the boss's strike. Sparks fly as the monster's sheer mass threatens to crush them both, and Tsuyoshi's face finally loses its confidence, turning a ghostly shade of pale. He realizes in this split second that without real armor, one graze from that monster will turn him into a red smear. The tension is through the roof. Can he actually survive a boss fight with nothing but a wooden stick and a borrowed dagger? A close-up of Tsuyoshi's heavy boots hitting the cavern floor as he walks. He's just made a game-changing discovery. His divine consciousness inventory isn't just a locker for his weapons, but it can store full sets of armor too. Even better, the items he stashes in there stay with him across both worlds, meaning he can bring high-tier gear back to the human realm whenever he wants. Honestly, this is the ultimate cheat code for a guy who was just a cleaner a few days ago. A holographic system screen floats in the air, showing Tsuyoshi's severely limited storage space. His face drops when he realizes he only has 2 slots available, and that massive hammer he's lugging around is already hogging half of his total capacity. He's racking his brain trying to figure out how to level up and expand his inventory because let's be real, going into a high-ranked dungeon with 1 open slot is like trying to move house with a tricycle. Tsuyoshi stands behind the Beastman girl, his eyes scanning over her head, arms, and torso armor. He's supposed to be analyzing her equipment for research, but his face starts turning a suspicious shade of red as he thinks about how irresistible beast-eared girls are. He even starts daydreaming about what other fantasy races might be hiding in this world while he wears a totally goofy grin. Seriously, Tsuyoshi, you're in the middle of a monster den, maybe save the cultural research for later. The Beastman girl's ears twitch and she suddenly screams a warning, her eyes darting to the shadows behind her master. Out of nowhere, 2 level 4 goblins launch themselves through the air, their grotesque tongues lolling out as they dive straight for Tsuyoshi's head. The speed of the attack is insane compared to the monsters they fought earlier. It's a total ambush, and Tsuyoshi looks like he's about a second away from becoming goblin snacks. The girl slides into a combat stance, her blade ready to intercept the green monsters as they swarm them. She grit her teeth and warns him that the goblins are only going to get faster and more vicious the deeper they go into these tunnels. You can feel the tension in the air getting heavier with every step they take. If these are just the scouts, then the boss at the end of this cave is going to be an absolute nightmare. Tsuyoshi suddenly lunges forward, shouting at the girl to stay back and not interfere with his kill. He's being incredibly stubborn because he knows he won't get any experience points if she does all the work, and he needs those points to upgrade his system slots. She calls him a reckless fool as he puts himself directly in the path of a serrated blade. He's literally betting his life on a single swing just so he can level up. It's pure desperation. A massive, blinding explosion of white light and jagged debris shatters the silence of the cave. Tsuyoshi unleashes a strike so powerful that the ground beneath him starts to crack, sending a shockwave that completely consumes the monsters. The screen fades into a cloud of dust and sparks, leaving us wondering if he actually pulled it off. But looking at the scale of that blast, did he just destroy the goblins, or did he just blow himself up too? A pile of mangled goblin corpses litters the floor as dust settles around Tsuyoshi. Our MC stands in the center of the wreckage, panting heavily while his status window flickers to life, confirming he's officially a level 3 warrior. He stares at the notification for the Heaven Shaker skill, realizing that while the power is god tier, his wooden stick is seconds away from snapping in half. It's a classic glass cannon situation, he has the output of a nuke, but his hardware is literally a piece of kindling. Honestly, seeing him survive that blast with such a pathetic weapon is nothing short of a miracle. Tsuyoshi lunges forward again, the screen filling with floating EXP icons as he clears the next wave. He's moving with a new kind of confidence, his experience bar jumping from 360 all the way to 1230 in a matter of moments. The Beastman girl is practically glowing with pride, jumping up and down with pom-poms of dust, shouting, "Amazing, Master," at the top of her lungs. You can see the pure joy on her face, but for Tsuyoshi, this isn't just a game anymore, it's a total revelation. He's getting stronger at a pace that shouldn't even be possible, and you can tell he's starting to get addicted to the rush. A mental image of Tsuyoshi's old life as a cleaner flashes across the screen, showing heroes complaining about low rewards. Back in the human world, these high and mighty warriors would whine about getting 10 measly points of experience after a full day of hunting. Between the guild taking a massive cut and the experience being split among a whole party, leveling up was a slow, painful grind for everyone. But here, in this other world, Tsuyoshi is a one-man army keeping 100% of the loot and the glory. His eyes widen as he hits 2100 EXP, realizing that the system he's been stuck in was actually a cage. It's satisfying to see him finally get the wins he deserves after years of being looked down on. The atmosphere shifts instantly as the duo enters a deeper, pitch-black chamber of the cave. The air turns heavy, and the sound of dripping water is replaced by a wet, rhythmic slithering that makes the hair on Tsuyoshi's neck stand up. He ducks behind a jagged rock, his face going pale as he peeks out into the gloom. Emerging from the shadows is a massive, grotesque entity covered in thick, matted fur and writhing, pale tentacles that look like they belong in a nightmare. This isn't just another grunt, the sheer scale of this thing screams, "Boss fight." My heart actually dropped seeing this thing. If a wooden stick was struggling with goblins, how is he supposed to survive a literal Lovecraftian horror? Tsuyoshi stares at the pitch-black aura with wide, trembling eyes as the realization hits him like a freight train. He realizes with a sickening jolt that the darkness plaguing this beast world isn't just some random monster, it's the exact same malevolent force that destroyed his life back home. Beside him, the Beastman girl's ears twitch in pure, unadulterated terror as she senses an ancient, suffocating power radiating from the shadow. This isn't just a boss fight, it's a living nightmare that possesses power shrouded in total mystery. And honestly, the way she's shaking tells me they are way out of their league. Tsuyoshi's expression hardens into a mask of pure grit, his face shadowed by a sudden, bone-deep rage. He remembers his parents, the people he loved most, murdered by this very darkness, and he makes a desperate vow to tear this thing apart with his own hands. Without waiting for a plan or a better weapon, he charges headfirst into the abyss, swinging that makeshift wooden stick like it's a holy blade. It's a total suicide mission, but the fire in his eyes says he'd rather die in the dirt than run away from his past again. You can almost feel his heartbeat through the screen. He's completely snapped. The Beastman girl screams, "Master," at the top of her lungs as the ground under Tsuyoshi's feet begins to buckle and crack. But Tsuyoshi doesn't stop, roaring the name of his newest and most dangerous skill, Heaven Shaker. Suddenly, his right arm ignites with a blinding, golden radiance that looks like it's literally tearing the fabric of reality apart. The impact is a massive, deafening explosion of light and shadow that sends shockwaves through the entire cave. This is the kind of power that's supposed to be reserved for gods, and seeing a cleaner use it is just insane. The smoke clears to reveal a devastating sight. Tsuyoshi is collapsed in the dirt, his body battered and looking like it's about to fall apart. He's coughing up thick, dark blood, his skin deathly pale as he stares up at the shadowy titan still looming over him like an executioner. He gasps out a ragged breath to the system, asking, "Are you trying to kill me?" It's a brutal, grounded reminder that these high-level skills have high-level costs. Seeing him like this is hard to watch. The Heaven Shaker is clearly destroying his body from the inside out. But just when you think he's done, Tsuyoshi's eye snaps open, glowing with a fierce, golden intensity that cuts straight through the dark. He isn't finished yet, repeating his vow through gritted, bloody teeth because he refuses to be killed by the same thing that took everything from him. He pulls back a massive, glowing fist, channeling every single drop of his remaining life force and willpower into one final, world-ending punch. This is the definition of an all-or-nothing move, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. If this strike doesn't land, there won't be enough of Tsuyoshi left to bury. Tsuyoshi's right arm swells to a monstrous size, veins bulging as golden energy pulses through his skin. The system immediately flashes a red warning, screaming that his hand is under immense strain and he needs to be cautious. But Tsuyoshi isn't listening to logic anymore. He declares that his own body will be the weapon that ends this. You can practically feel the heat radiating off him through the screen. He's gambling everything on a single limb. The massive, dark entity unhinges its jaw, charging a horrific blast of energy as Tsuyoshi roars, "Perish," at the top of his lungs. The monster looks like a literal god of death, but Tsuyoshi doesn't even blink as he stares down that gaping maw. He's channeling all that divine consciousness into a point of no return. It's a terrifying game of chicken. Who's going to break first? Tsuyoshi launches the punch, and the impact creates a shockwave so violent it tears the ground apart. The Beastman girl is sent flying backward, screaming as the sheer pressure of the hit threatens to crush her too. Then, a massive, blinding explosion of white light swallows the entire frame, erasing the monster and the cave from view. Man, the sheer scale of this power is insane. Tsuyoshi just turned a fist into a nuclear bomb. As the dust finally settles, Tsuyoshi stands alone in the wreckage, his shirt completely vaporized and his back turned to us. The system pings with a massive EXP plus 1000 notification and a level up, but he's barely standing, his skin red and steaming from the heat of the technique. He mutters that he'll kill all the darkness, and you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. He won the fight, but at what cost to his human body? The Beastman girl rushes over, her eyes wide with pure horror as she looks at Tsuyoshi's arm. She gasps out, "Master's arm," as we see the limb is charred, trembling, and looking completely shattered. Tsuyoshi is panting, his vision probably blurring, as the reality of using a divine skill with a D-rank body sets in. He survived the beast, but now he's facing a new nightmare. Can he even use that arm ever again? The high of the victory is gone instantly, replaced by the chilling sight of his mangled limb. What happens to a hero who loses his weapon before the real mission even starts? Tsuyoshi hunches over, sweat dripping off his chin as a jagged blue system window pops up in his face. The notification is basically a slap in the face, telling him that because he focused every ounce of energy into his right arm, his body literally can't handle that kind of load again. It's the classic price of a one-shot move. He got the kill, but he almost traded his entire limb for it. Seriously, if he does that one more time, he's going to be a one-armed hero before he even hits C rank. The Beastman girl holds up a sleek black tank top with a massive, sparkling grin on her face, asking if it's good enough. Tsuyoshi swaps his baggy, cleaner, jumpsuit for the new gear, and the change is actually crazy. He went from looking like a scrawny janitor to a literal tank. She's just sitting there on the ground looking up at him, glowing with pride because she's glad to be of service to her master. Honestly, after that brutal fight, this little domestic moment feels weirdly earned, but the tension of his injury is still lingering. Tsuyoshi lays flat on his back, his eyes staring blankly at the sky while his ripped torso heaves with every breath. He eventually ends up resting his head right against the Beastman girl's chest, whispering through gritted teeth that his arm is absolutely killing him. You can see the pure exhaustion in his eyes. It's that, "I survived, but at what cost?" look. It's a quiet, heavy moment that reminds us he's still just a guy with a D-rank body trying to wield the power of a god. A small, pinkish bat creature flutters around the screen as a caption jumps the timeline forward exactly 1 hour. The girl looks down at Tsuyoshi with those big blue eyes and tells him they need to settle down and find a place to rest for the night. She's right, too. He's a total mess, and pushing any further tonight would be a death sentence. It's finally time to clock out and hope he actually wakes up in one piece. The camera pans across a dark city skyline in the human world, landing on a quiet apartment building bathed in moonlight. Inside, Tsuyoshi is tucked into his own bed, but he's suddenly surrounded by a pulsing golden aura that looks like pure magic. He sits up, gasping as he realizes he feels way better already. It's wild, he's not even in the beast realm anymore, but his hero traits are still working overtime to put him back together while he sleeps. Green plus symbols float all around Tsuyoshi's shirtless body as he stares at his hands in total shock. He starts thinking about how the pharmacology in this world is so much more ancient and effective than anything he's used before. The recovery speed might be a bit slow, but the actual quality of the healing is on another level. He's basically watching his muscles knit themselves back together in real time, preparing him for whatever nightmare is coming tomorrow. Tsuyoshi stands up and strikes a classic bodybuilder pose, his skin literally sparkling now that he's fully healed and feeling like a beast. Behind him, the girl is cheering him on, reminding him that they still have rewards waiting in a treasure chest. Tsuyoshi's eyes go wide as he realizes he completely forgot about the loot. This is the moment we've been waiting for. After nearly dying, what kind of insane gear is the system about to drop in his lap? Tsuyoshi and the Beastman girl stand as small silhouettes in the massive cave mouth while a system notice flashes brightly. Because he managed to demolish the boss in record-breaking time, the system officially upgrades his loot from a standard, partial reward, to a full-blown, set reward. Honestly, after that life-or-death struggle where he almost lost his arm, the system better be generous. Breaking records is usually the fastest way to get broken items, and it looks like Tsuyoshi is finally getting some much-needed respect from the game's mechanics. A golden treasure chest adorned with a glowing purple gem sparkles intensely on a stone pedestal. This isn't just any loot box, it's a darkness treasure chest, and in this world, darkness-type equipment is supposedly incredibly rare and hard to find. Tsuyoshi practically dives at the thing, his eyes sparkling with more light than the chest itself as he leans over to pry it open. The payoff is immediate and massive. The system announces he has received the Dark Goblin set. Getting a full matching set this early in his journey is basically a cheat code for a newbie hero. Tsuyoshi stares intensely at a floating prompt asking if he wants to save the new gear in his divine consciousness inventory. The problem is, he's down to his very last inventory slot, and he's visibly sweating while wondering if an entire outfit is going to count as one single item or several separate ones. To his massive relief, the system confirms that the whole set fits into that single remaining slot perfectly. It's a huge win for his resource management, but it really makes you wonder, just how much more can he squeeze into that inventory before he's forced to leave something valuable behind? Tsuyoshi's face twists into a dark, slightly unhinged grin as he realizes just how much of a steal this reward was. The Beastman girl just watches him with a confused expression, wondering why her master is suddenly smiling like a total villain. She shyly blushes while holding up a small green pouch, mentioning she's been sewing her own clothes since she was a little girl and has a sewing kit ready if he needs repairs. It's a surprisingly wholesome moment amidst all the blood and monsters, but man, Tsuyoshi's mind is clearly miles away, probably already planning how to use that set to survive his next mission. A beautiful, silent full moon hangs over the city as the scene finally shifts back to the human world. Tsuyoshi teleports into his cramped room, blue energy still swirling behind him, and he immediately faceplants onto his bed with a heavy, exhausted thud. He's completely drained, reflecting on the mountain of loot he just scored while burying his face deep into his pillow. He knows he can't stop time in the other world forever, and with his official D-rank mission looming tomorrow, he needs every second of sleep he can get. But even with that Dark Goblin set in his inventory, is he actually prepared for the horrors waiting in the D-rank cave? Tsuyoshi lies staring at the ceiling with bandages on his face and heavy eyes. He's trying to mentally prep for the D-rank cave, but the next day, screen hits before he can even blink. A system window pops up in the morning light, asking if he wants to equip the Dark Goblin set he just looted from the Beast Realm. This is a massive jump in armor, but the timing of this power-up couldn't be more intense. A demonic goblin face roars from the center of a blue system window as the armor activates. This gear isn't just for show. It unlocks a special skill called Roaring Tentacles that can paralyze every low-grade enemy within earshot. Tsuyoshi stands tall in his new jagged, organic armor, looking like a total final boss with glowing red accents. He's got this dark, confident smirk on his face as he tests the weight of the plates. Honestly, seeing him go from a cleaner to this is such a hype moment. A group of armed hunters stands in a dim, stone corridor looking for easy targets. Tsuyoshi knows the dark truth of this world. Some heroes will kill you just to strip the rare loot off your corpse. He realizes his new armor makes him a walking target, so he quickly triggers the system's conceal function. The demonic plates literally melt into his skin, leaving him looking like a normal guy in a basic tank top. Smart move. You can't steal what you can't see, right? Tsuyoshi pulls on a pair of camo pants as a burner phone vibrates and rings loudly on the bed. It's the old phone he found in the market, and the look on his face when he answers is pure, unfiltered terror. A nurse is on the other end, screaming that scary people are at the hospital and they're trying to take his sister, Karina. The panic in his eyes says it all. This just went from a training mission to an absolute nightmare in a matter of seconds. Tsuyoshi bellows into the phone with his neck muscles bulging in sheer rage. He's telling them not to let anyone lay a finger on her, but the call suddenly cuts out with a sharp, sickening static buzz. He slams his fist into the wall, shattering the concrete as his experience bar hovers at a mocking 0. He's still weak by the system's standards, but the monsters at the hospital won't wait for him to level up. How the hell is he supposed to save her when he's still just a D-rank nobody? The hospital hallways are filled with the sound of Karina screaming for her brother to help her. A group of thugs has cornered the girl in her room, demanding she comes with them. A man in a gold chain leans over her, brandishing a crumpled document that looks like a legal nightmare. Seriously, seeing these guys bully a sick girl while she's defenseless is just painful to watch. A thug stares down at a photo of a smiling Karina while talking about her price on the black market. He mocks her condition, saying her inability to walk makes her valuable to some very sick people. Karina glares back with everything she has, shouting that Tsuyoshi would never agree to this, but the thug just laughs it off. He explains that her brother's money is only paying off the interest, meaning they'll never be free. The way they talk about her like she's just an object is beyond cruel. The leader reaches out and aggressively grabs Karina by the jaw, forcing her to look him in the eye. He tells her that if she comes nicely, they won't have to get rough with her. His face twists into a terrifying, shadowy grin as he leans in close to savor her fear. It's honestly sickening how much he's enjoying this power trip, but you can feel the tension in the air shifting. The hospital wall suddenly explodes inward as a dark silhouette smashes through the debris. Tsuyoshi stands in the center of the wreckage, his eyes glowing with a terrifying, cold fury that fills the entire room. He tells the thugs to brace themselves, and you can tell he isn't planning on leaving any of them standing. Man, things are about to get absolutely brutal for these guys, and they deserve every bit of it. The scene fades into a dark void before showing a flash of the hero and the Beastman girl together. This brief pause in the action only makes the upcoming beatdown feel even more inevitable. You just know that once the dust settles, those thugs are going to regret ever stepping foot in this hospital. But the real question is, how far will Tsuyoshi go to protect his sister? Tsuyoshi's status window flickers to life, revealing he's only level 4 but rocking the full Dark Goblin set. Even with a bizarre special skill like Roaring Tentacles, his stats look way too low for what's coming. Honestly, seeing a level 4 walk into a high-stakes conflict usually ends in a funeral, but Tsuyoshi isn't your average player. A chilling overhead shot shows the thugs closing in on Karina's wheelchair, making her look incredibly small and defenseless. Meanwhile, back at the training grounds, an instructor screams that the solo test is a suicide mission that no one has ever passed. You can feel the desperation on both fronts, one for his life, and one for his sister's safety. Tsuyoshi casually stretches his arms, looking completely unfazed by the instructor's panicked warnings. He gives a brief, polite thanks for the advice, before stepping into the portal without a second thought. The guy is walking straight into a meat grinder, but he's acting like he's just going for a morning stroll. The lead thug looms over Karina with a disgusting smirk, mocking her by saying Tsuyoshi doesn't need a cripple sister holding him back. But his laughter dies instantly when Tsuyoshi appears behind him, his aura vibrating with pure, unadulterated rage. If there was ever a moment to realize you've messed with the wrong person, this is it. A heavy, brutal punch connects with a sickening crack, sending blood and teeth flying as the thug's face is practically cave-in. As the strike lands, we see a vision of slaughtered monsters, proving that Tsuyoshi's low level is a total lie. He's not just fighting these guys, he's hunting them like the trash they are. Dark, shadowy energy begins to swirl around Tsuyoshi's legs as his system confirms a massive boost to his movement speed. Perfect timing, he mutters, just as the boss thug is launched across the room with enough force to shatter the furniture. It's a total massacre, but just as the dust starts to settle, a shadow moves in the corner of the room. Who else is watching this? The bald boss lunges forward with a desperate, heavy punch, his face contorted in a mix of rage and disbelief. Despite his level 100 status, the attack hits nothing but empty air as Tsuyoshi weaves through the strike with the grace of a ghost. With a sickening, heavy thud, Tsuyoshi delivers a counterblow that sends the massive warrior crashing through the hospital furniture like a ragdoll. Honestly, it's not even a fight at this point, it's more like a professional cleaning service. Seeing a top-tier thug get folded like yesterday's laundry is the exact kind of karma I've been waiting for. A goon with a thick gold chain screams in absolute rage, pulling a hidden handgun from his jacket in a last-ditch effort to reclaim control. He pulls the trigger point blank, the muzzle flash momentarily blinding the room while Karina cries out in pure terror. But then, the world seems to slow down as Tsuyoshi stands his ground, his eyes glowing with a predatory red light that pierces through the smoke. The bullet doesn't even graze him, he stopped it dead in its tracks, proving his physical stats are now off the charts. My heart actually skipped a beat here. This guy just brought a pea shooter to a superhuman showdown, and the look of regret on his face is absolutely priceless. Tsuyoshi stands tall in the center of the wreckage, a chilling blue aura now radiating from his body like a freezing flame. He calmly looks at his trembling enemies and drops the ultimate truth. Ordinary weapons are useless because he has officially awakened as a hero. The thugs look like they've seen a literal god of death, their faces twisting into a pathetic mask of unadulterated fear as they realize they're totally outclassed. You can feel the hierarchy of this world shattering in real time. He's no longer the poor kid they can push around, he's now the most dangerous predator in the building. The hospital staff and security finally burst through the doors, but they find a scene they never expected. The tough debt collectors are on their knees, bowing frantically. These guys are crying and begging for forgiveness, terrified that if they don't apologize enough, Tsuyoshi might actually erase them from existence right there. As they scramble to escape the room, the goon with the gold chain realizes the stakes have changed. He needs to report this hero to his true boss before their entire plan to take Karina falls apart. Tsuyoshi won this round, but he just opened a door to a much bigger war. What kind of monster is waiting for him at the top? A bruised thug glares back with a bloodied face. He's thinking about his level 100 boss and how they're going to come back to destroy this trainee hero. Honestly, these guys are delusional if they think a level number is going to save them from Tsuyoshi. As they scurry away, Tsuyoshi just watches them leave, his mind already moving to the next problem. Karina looks up at her brother with wide, shimmering eyes. She can't believe he's actually become a hero, but Tsuyoshi knows the truth. He's still just an intern with a mountain of debt. The reality is soul-crushing. He owes the Blue Snake Gang $60,000 for her medical bills. It's the kind of pressure that would break a normal person, but for him, it's just fuel. The scene shifts to a dark, misty forest under a pale moon. This is the site of the hero exam, and standing before the trainees is Gaia, a level 9 warrior with 1200 combat power. He looks like your typical arrogant high ranker, draped in gold armor and radiating self-importance. You can tell immediately that this guy loves the sound of his own voice. Gaia stands over the trainees with a condescending smirk. He explains that if they want to pass this exam and become official heroes, they all need to pay him a fee of 20,000 yen. It's a total shakedown, and the hero union is just turning a blind eye to the corruption. My blood is boiling just looking at this guy. He's literally gatekeeping their futures for pocket change. The trainees bow their heads in submission, whispering, yes, with trembling voices. They're terrified because Gaia is a member of the Crazy Wolf Guild, a name that clearly carries a lot of weight and fear in this world. They feel like they have no choice but to pay up. It's pathetic to see someone who's supposed to be a protector acting like a common mobster. Tsuyoshi stands in the back of the crowd, his fist clenched tightly. He watches the strong crush the weak and decides right then and there that he won't pay a single cent to a man like Gaia. He's willing to risk everything, even the exam itself, to keep his pride. But with a level 9 warrior blocking his path to the money he needs for Karina, how exactly does he plan to survive this without a fight? Gaia's face twists into a mocking, arrogant smirk. He tells Tsuyoshi that if he's too poor to pay the 20,000 yen fee, he should just sign up for the solo test instead. The surrounding crowd starts whispering in a panic, because rumor has it that no intern has ever actually survived a solo run. Gaia is basically giving him a death sentence and laughing about it. Honestly, the level of disrespect this guy has for anyone without a bank account is just sickening. Tsuyoshi walks calmly toward a swirling golden portal. Instead of being intimidated, he just mutters that the solo option is convenient since it saves him money for Karina's hospital bills. A system window flashes a warning. This is a sea-level zone recommended for at least 5 high-power warriors. Tsuyoshi stands in the middle of a dense, foggy forest, looking around at the untouched wilderness. He's realizing that the clean dungeons the public sees are nothing like this raw, dangerous reality. A hideous, green-skinned dark goblin lunges from the shadows with a jagged club. It tries to catch Tsuyoshi off guard, but our MC's eyes ignite with a terrifying golden glow as his combat power stat skyrockets to a massive 6,400. He doesn't even dodge. He just intercepts the attack and delivers a punch so fast the camera can barely track it. The goblin is level 3, but against Tsuyoshi, it might as well be made of paper. This is where the weak in turn starts looking like a final boss. Tsuyoshi looks down at the monster's remains, feeling more annoyed than satisfied. He realizes the experience points here are absolute trash, only 20 points toward a 6,000 point goal, because real-world monsters are half as strong as the ones in the beast realm. He realizes why other heroes grow so slowly. They're fighting toddlers compared to what he's used to. Suddenly, a dark, jagged red aura explodes from his body, shaking the very ground. He's decided to stop holding back and finish this test immediately. A blur of dark armor and spiky energy tears through a group of goblins in a literal fountain of sparks. The sheer force of the battle creates a massive blue mushroom cloud of energy that can be seen over the treeline. Deep in the woods, the third hunter watches the explosion in total disbelief, noting that Tsuyoshi has survived alone for nearly an hour. The hunter thinks he's found a target to rob, but looking at that explosion, he has no idea he's about to walk into a meat grinder. An examiner stares at his tablet in the middle of the woods, his face pale with disbelief. The unthinkable just happened. Tsuyoshi didn't just survive the solo test, he absolutely demolished it. His results screen pops up, showing he's still only level 4, yet his combat value has skyrocketed to a staggering 6,400. Tsuyoshi stands nearby, his black tank top drenched in sweat and grime, looking completely unfazed by the madness he just unleashed. Honestly, those numbers are straight up broken for a rookie. How does a guy with no high-level skills produce that kind of raw power? Gaia looms over the area with a sneer, his silver hair catching the light as he vents his frustration. He's trying to save face by demanding 20,000 credits, claiming he's lowering the price of his protection because Tsuyoshi is such a pathetic low-level. The surrounding hunters whisper in confusion, wondering why the elite instructor is suddenly so focused on a nobody. Gaia keeps barking about how Tsuyoshi would be dead without his guidance, clearly trying to extort money from a man he thinks is beneath him. It's honestly hard to watch. This guy is so blinded by his own ego he can't see the monster standing right in front of him. Gaia finally catches a glimpse of the updated combat data, and his smug expression instantly shatters. A cold sweat breaks out across his forehead as he realizes the rookie he's been mocking is actually a powerhouse. He grits his teeth and screams nonsense at the top of his lungs, his brain refusing to accept that a level 4 could ever be this strong. While Gaia is having a literal meltdown in the background, Tsuyoshi is casually washing his face at a stone fountain, letting the cool water rinse away the filth of battle. Gaia is still trying to talk down to him, but you can hear the desperation in his voice now. The power dynamic just shifted completely, and Gaia is terrified of what happens when Tsuyoshi stops playing nice. What is he going to do when he realizes Tsuyoshi isn't just a lucky rookie, but a threat to his entire status? Gaia stands tall with a condescending smirk, looking down as he rants about how nothing is truly impossible. He's trying to play the wise mentor, but he's really just stroking his own ego while Tsuyoshi stands there looking bored. Tsuyoshi isn't even processing the lecture. He's actually fixated on the fact that he was almost scammed out of 20,000 credits. Suddenly, Gaia snaps and lunges forward, grabbing Tsuyoshi by the collar while screaming about his status in the Lazy Wolf Guild. He demands an answer, looming over the MC with a face full of pure, unearned rage. Tsuyoshi just stares back with these cold, dead eyes that would make a normal person run for the hills. Honestly, Gaia is playing a very dangerous game with someone who clearly stopped caring about rank a long time ago. A sudden burst of golden energy explodes from Tsuyoshi's hand, cutting through the air with a sharp sound. In a literal heartbeat, the MC moves so fast he becomes a blur, breaking Gaia's grip before the guy can even register what's happening. Gaia's eyes bulge out of his head as he realizes a level 4 shouldn't possess this kind of raw, overwhelming speed. Before he can even turn around, Tsuyoshi is already standing several feet away, leaving Gaia stumbling in the dust like a total amateur. It's a total, blink and you'll miss it, moment that completely flips the script on who's actually in control here. You can tell Gaia's world is crumbling because his logic can't explain why a weakling just moved faster than a top-tier hunter. Tsuyoshi's expression shifts from calm to genuine worry as he realizes he might have shown too much of his true strength. But Gaia is too far gone in his ego. He whips out a hidden dagger and lunges at Tsuyoshi's neck in a desperate, cowardly sneak attack. There's a sickening metallic snap as the blade shatters against Tsuyoshi's skin, leaving Gaia holding nothing but a broken hilt. He's trembling now, sweating bullets because hitting the MC felt like trying to stab a mountain of solid steel instead of a human. Tsuyoshi is internally freaking out, thinking about how much trouble he's in if people find out about his boundless ability. Gaia looks completely broken, staring at the MC and begging to know what kind of monster he's actually dealing with. If this secret gets out now, every guild in the city is going to be hunting Tsuyoshi by sunset. What's he going to do to keep Gaia's mouth shut? A hand tightly grips a glowing, ornate dagger as the interrogation begins. The staff is suspicious, demanding to know if Tsuyoshi stole this or found it in a cave. Tsuyoshi plays it off as a shabby find, but he's internally exhaling in relief that they actually bought the lie. He finishes his identity verification, officially becoming a hunter on paper. Honestly, seeing him sweat like that makes you realize how thin the ice really is. One slip up and his boundless secret is public property. Tsuyoshi finally heads out, but he can feel a pair of eyes burning into his back. Gaia is lurking in the shadows, and even though the staff warns him not to pull any more stunts, he clearly isn't listening. He flashes this absolutely demonic, wide-toothed grin that screams, "I've found my new prey." Gaia isn't just an arrogant instructor anymore. He's a predator who smells a payday, and that look on his face is pure nightmare fuel. Tsuyoshi stares out at the moon, acknowledging that while his combat power is insane for a level 4, high-level enemies are still a massive headache. He's strong, sure, but he knows he's not invincible yet. The Beastman girl floats outside his window like a loyal spirit, a silent reminder that his life is officially tied to another realm now. He realizes Gaia is hunting him, and the pressure is starting to reach a boiling point. Two silhouettes move through the darkness, whispering as they confirm they've found the target's location. A mage from the Lazy Wolf Guild reveals himself, clutching a glowing red mana stone with a combat power of 3500. Behind him, Gaia is literally licking the steel of his sword like a complete lunatic. This isn't a random encounter, it's a coordinated hit, and they think Tsuyoshi is just a lucky kid with a nice toy. Gaia gives the order to use immobilization magic first to make the capture quick and easy. They want to break his spirit before he can even reach for a weapon. But as the magic flares, a massive explosion of mana tears through the silence. Tsuyoshi stands in the center of the wreckage, his eyes glowing a predatory red as his aura completely explodes. They wanted a fight. Well, they just invited a monster to dinner, and he looks hungry. What happens when these pros realize they've cornered the wrong man? A status window glitches into view, revealing a terrifying 6,400 combat power pinned to a mere level 4 character. Tsuyoshi's raw stats are completely broken thanks to the Dark Goblin set, even if his level is low. "I'll take you down," he growls, his body erupting in a jagged crimson aura as he prepares to unleash the Heaven Shaker skill. Seriously, seeing those numbers on a level 4 is just disgusting. He's a walking cheat code. Tsuyoshi's eyes narrow as he calculates the deadly risks of fighting a level 10 mage head-on. Even with his insane power, a 6-level gap creates a massive system disadvantage that's hard to overcome with just stats. It's like a tiny level 3 swordsman trying to tickle a level 72 boss. The system basically nerfs your damage into the ground. This isn't just a brawl anymore, it's a high-stakes math problem where the wrong move ends in a game over. A greedy hunter sneers from the shadows, bragging about his reinforced cloak before screaming that he's going to take all of Tsuyoshi's loot. Suddenly, a flame jet erupts, turning the entire frame into a searing orange furnace that incinerates the air. The fire licks at Tsuyoshi's skin, and he realizes his gear is great for physical defense, but it's basically paper against magic. He's literally getting cooked alive. He needs to move, and he needs to move now. Tsuyoshi turns tail and sprints into the night, baited the hunters into a desperate chase. He suddenly launches himself into the air, silhouetted against a massive, cold moon as he focuses every ounce of body enhancement into his legs. He's not running away, he's using the height to build momentum for a crushing impact from above. His movement is so fluid it's scary. He's turning the environment into his own personal weapon. But just as Tsuyoshi prepares to land his counterattack, a third shadow drops from the sky like a starving predator. There's a sickening thud and a sharp cough of pain as the mysterious third hunter finally strikes, catching the MC completely off guard in midair. This is a nightmare scenario. He was so focused on the mages that he completely missed the real threat lurking in the clouds. Can he even recover from a hit like that while falling? A sinister, glowing-eyed hunter drops from the sky with a psychotic grin. He's been lurking in the shadows this entire time, waiting for the perfect moment to catch Tsuyoshi off guard. A massive explosion ripples through the forest floor as the ambush connects, sending a shockwave of dust and debris into the air. Honestly, anyone else would have been a red smear on the pavement, but Tsuyoshi is built different. As the smoke clears, we see him struggling to his feet, gasping for air. He managed to re-enhance his body at the final millisecond, and that dark goblin set just barely soaked up the lethal blow. The look of pure annoyance on the attacker's face says it all. He really thought that was the end. Tsuyoshi's eyes flare a deadly, demonic crimson as he glares at the circling predators. He isn't just defending himself anymore, he's ready to kill every single one of them for pulling such a cowardly move. He screams out, activating a terrifying transformation called Roar Tentacle, and for a split second, he looks like an absolute monster. But just as he's about to rip them apart, a system window pops up and ruins everything. A cheap, action restriction, skill freezes his body for 1.5 seconds, leaving him completely vulnerable. In a high-stakes fight like this, a second and a half might as well be an eternity. This is the absolute worst-case scenario. The greedy hunters lunge forward, laughing like hyenas as they talk about splitting up his legendary loot. They think they've finally cornered the golden goose, but Tsuyoshi has one last card to play. Knowing he can't win a 3-on-1 while paralyzed, he desperately calls upon the Path of Boundless through his ring. A blinding pillar of light erupts from his position, swallowing him whole just as their blades are about to pierce his skin. He vanishes into thin air, leaving the hunters empty-handed and screaming in frustration. He's gone, but his parting words hang in the air. He's going to remember their faces, and karma is a beast. Tsuyoshi collapses back into the other realm, panting and covered in the soot of battle. The adrenaline is fading, replaced by a cold realization. He's been relying way too much on his gear and not enough on his own level. He clenches his fist, swearing to master new skills so he never has to run like a dog again. But his big dramatic moment of resolve is immediately ruined when he looks over. The Beastman girl is sprawled out on the floor, sleeping peacefully and literally sparkling while he's over here having a life crisis. Seriously, he just survived an assassination attempt, and she's off in dreamland. It's the perfect, ridiculous ending to the most stressful day of his life.